So I'm going to turn it up a bit. I wanted to talk today about scales and dragons and um, why it's really important for us to um, not get too, um, mm, I want to say, caught up in somebody else's. There's dogmatic teachings out there where this is what this is, and they say, for instance, energy. It's got a lot of different language for it in different systems. That's all they are, right? And really, those systems are simply constructs that your consciousness is allowed to be active within your field. So they're literally constellations that you allow the light to come through to you. You've lit up, right? So you have given value to them, right? So you give it some currency. So it interacts with you, it can bring you light. Where it gets a bit dogmatic, though, and where you have to let go of it as being the only way is where it actually denies the light to other systems. And this is really important, right? Because all systems are within you, and it's your choice of how, what octave, what scale they get to vibrate at through you. So if those systems that say are their own sphere of influence, and we know that everything has its own sphere of influence, and it's got the let's say that everybody who interacted with it, or every outside time and space, past, present, future, who's ever interacted within those systems, or ever judged the system, or expanded the system, or took it to new heights, or and we know that they always say that the history is written by the winners, kind of every battle, or I don't know if I even got that language right, but it doesn't really matter. That history has been rewritten. So those spheres have been, I don't want to say the words hijacked or distorted. They've been distorted. It's kind of like you get a whole bunch of people sitting in a circle. You whisper a secret to one, and by the time it gets around the circle, it's changed, right? Well, systems are similar to that because um, not everybody is vibrating at the same octave, right? And we're all at different scales and different vibrational coordinates, and we all have different instruments, right? So it's going to sound different from every person, right? So we are like those whispers, those secrets, whispering around, but within every system that we interact with, we're part of the whispers. And when you have people that are really in distortion being brought into those systems, let's say from an ego identity, right? And that's, let's face it, there's a lot of egoic people out there that have created identities around those systems, around being the experts in the systems. And so they have denied the light to anybody who doesn't fit within their I want to say their allowances, or where they've given permission to be light, to be good, to be have value, right? And that's the key. So we come back to the scale. So your scales, and that's what the scales of justice are, right? Just ice. It's where we have fixed, frozen. It's the dogma. It's the areas where we have brought shadow into the opposite of something we've brought light. So us coming into balance, right? Justice, it really is, it should be balancing your scales, which the scales, of course, are your dragon energy, right? That how the energy moves through you based on your allotments of permissions, where you are in denial of the light, right? Or where you've given too much light, and we know that its opposite has to happen because every action has an equal and opposite. So within you, your playground needs to be more in the neutrality. And I don't even want to say non-duality. Some people will call it non-duality, but non-duality is it's some people might even use the word spiritual bypassing, where you actually don't even play in the lower playgrounds, because you don't want to be the la 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 kind of thing if you haven't balanced yourself, right? You've got to be your own justice system, within to balance your scales, your dragon energy, right, within you, so you no longer have active currency going to out these outside areas. And there's a reason why, we had all those stories, where the knights have to, the knight, right, your shadow has to go in and rescue the princess, your divine feminine, right? And well, there's a saw. My husband's cutting something. I hope it doesn't show up in my video, but so your knight, the shadow coming along, it's rescuing the princess. Your female suddenly is safe, right? She's protected, right? She's brought back safely out of the distortion of, maybe that of the dragon, right? So every one of us battles a dragon in different areas, right? That's because there's dragons in, every element, earth, air, fire, water, ether, spirit, right? So when you are, and I don't even want to say the words battling, because that right away puts you in resistance to your energy. Um, you have to just know, where am I in resistance, right? That is your battle, I guess, if you're able to reflect at what you're resisting, putting in the light, or even just bringing it back into 0 point within you. When I have something where I know I've got a spin or a flavor of my personality, let's say within a story, and I want to see a certain outcome or a certain person, being, vindicated, or called out on whatever it is, whether I'm, wanting somebody's feet to the fire on something, it's not every person has the same justice and distortional balance, as I have. So how I want a certain story to play out is my own. And so I have to watch that story, or I choose to watch the story and go, whatever this is about within me, can I collapse, bring its opposite in, so I can collapse the charge. So if I've got a negative over here, bring in the positive, right? Or if I've got a positive, let's bring in the negative, so I can go back to 0 point. I can collapse the charge, and basically I can close the energetic loop that was playing out the distortion of that story, right? And then you get to take it up a notch to the next octave, right? And it's the repurposing, it's the you now get to use that currents and redirect it in a higher expression, because you're no longer needing to win or one side to be right, or you're no longer playing in the wobbling scales, right? And so when you can tame your dragons, right, and all those energetic currencies, and we've got different, how they play out is, through your different chakras. You may have different stories that have themes that are more connected to the certain chakras, right? Because your emotional body is represented, throughout. And have a look at your physicality, right? Your organs. It's also an organ, the musical notes, right? Their individual consciousness playing their instruments in certain ways to all contribute to the movement of this, of your energy field, right? Of your dragons. They're all dancing to the tunes you can play. And when the more you can come back into the neutrality, that's you fine tuning your instrument. So you have more clarity. You literally send out clearer signals. All those interference patterns can smooth and soften out, right? And you can bring your masculine and your feminine, your knight, and your when I say knight, I'm talking about the divine masculine, who's in the shadow, a bit more in the ego, maybe we'll say, and your divine feminine, who has been shut away, shut down, right? Because that divine feminine, she wasn't in this world, particularly right now, when you've got women, especially, out in the workforce, not necessarily valuing that feminine aspect of them, and then men not even respected if they get emotional. In this day and age, there's this whole bunch of, as we know the stereotypes, right? And that's what it is. That's all it is, right? It's just, where did we give our values to certain expressions of the masculine and the feminine, and what were we denying the light to, right? And where we denied the light, they, it's like your water being, the fire went out there, right? So it turns into the ice, right? It's kind of, so we're bringing your dragon back in. We're going to melt the ice, right? That's your internal alchemy. We're going to be firing on all cylinders, right? That spark of you, the spark plug in each chakra, right? It's going to activate more. We're going to be spinning with a little bit, more balanced, more in alignment. Your vortex energy, the up and down your pillar, suddenly is not pulling you off like a top into these side stories and distortions. You will stay on your path a lot more, a bit more, what's the word? Clearer. You'll have more clarity around your next steps, right? And the unfolding and just situations. If you find yourself in a situation, it doesn't feel good. But you are pretty good at bringing yourself back into your 0 point, right? And sometimes that's just your breath. Like, a simple one is if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, take a nice deep breath, and then on your out breath, really extend it. And so it's a longer out breath. A longer out breath automatically takes the steering wheel of your system. Your vagus nerve that might have been in fight or your whole nervous system in fight or flight, which turns off your vagus nerve, right? So you're not sending and receiving signals, right? Because it's saying we have something bigger to worry about, right? I think they call that your parasympathetic. No, parasympathetic. Anyways, I'm not sure but it's your nervous system that has been in overdrive and it's been in protection mode, right? So it can come back online just through that longer out breath. And then you can ask, I always ask for, Almighty I am, or, my higher self, please show me, what is the divine truth in this now moment, and assist me in tempering any any responses that were old patterns or old expectations, any old knee-jerk reactions, right? The programming and from the old belief systems that I was carrying, and just allow them to echo, ripple out, and let them go, right? And in this, now moment, I am made anew, right? It's like the old, behold, I make all things new, right? And you do, right? And so really, really step in and own that. And, one of the big things is, when something magical happens to you, and this is something that I read earlier, and it really, I play this game all the time, but I really liked how it got languaged. It was, when something really good happens, a lot of people go, wow. And they get so surprised when something really good happens. And what we want to do is make that your norm. So we want to say, of course that happened, right? Of course, right? As though it's every day, as though you expect those sorts of miraculous, wonderful, lucky as your default. Because we're going to shift your baseline up from it's a rare thing. That's why when we say, wow, okay, we're telling our field and our consciousness that this is an unusual thing. So the predictive programming doesn't dial it in as normal, right? It's saying, ooh, rare, right? So we're going to call that new thing in, and though, of course, I got my parking. Of course, what I came to the store for, it's on sale. Of course, my favorite song got played on the radio, whatever, of course. So all your of courses, I mean, it's, you don't want to say it necessarily out loud because it's going to sound really cocky, right? And you don't have to say that you did it, right? But what you want to do is the baseline is, of course, right? Because you're so in alignment and so divine and so magical that's just how you expect that graceful unfolding, right? And you have balanced your scales, your dragon energies are all beautifully out there, working with you and for you. And something's being collapsed here. And and give thanks to your dragons, to your because those are all systems of consciousness that was created on the planet long before humans came. And that's why they're old stories and they're in our myths. And, different civilizations spoke about them and told stories about them because there's a understanding that that's how the energy was. There was a setup of early consciousness, right? And and that's the thing, is that early consciousness was, I mean, gosh, every plant, every animal has systems of what frequencies, what consciousness they're holding, whether it's, the lions for bravery and courage, or, elephants for loyalty, and, um, and, and I know I've talked about this before, but different, creatures have beautiful abilities, the ability to heal, to heal itself, or to grow back, limbs, and, you know, camouflage, or change shape, right? The metamorphosis of a caterpillar, to the butterfly, right? um, they're holding these frequencies on the earth, but because we're all connected, right? And Gaia's consciousness is within us, and in our DNA is all the consciousness of all those creatures. They might be, when we're trying to balance equals and opposites, if I have a judgment around an ability to heal myself, and there's that fear going, oh, that's not real, Deborah, you can't do that. If I can just sit in my meditation and call it in, and ask for whatever is the cure to this thing, or whatever, that I'm sitting, that's expressing itself in me as a distortion, and I need to call in its opposite. I don't know what creature and consciousness that might look like, that's in the field out there. I'm just going to give gratitude to it, though, to all that. Like I said, everything within us is so many different systems. I think that's what disclosure is all about, is us connecting into all these seemingly separate systems, but they're not. That's that one field, right? And we've just designed this beautiful avatar to play with, but while we're within the systems, right? With the quantum entanglement with everything. So that's when we can really land that piece. We're really playing in our expanded consciousness, right? So yeah, something needed to come through. My conversations always activate pathways in the field. And so whoever's going to listen to this, whether it's, in the next little while or even years from now, as a new earth teacher, I know there's divine timing for everything. And I know that some of these ideas that I'm talking about are very, very out there for mainstream. So I'm just patient. I'm putting them out there because I've been given information, and I've been told I'm a new earth teacher. And so I'm sharing, and knowing that the programmers and the people that can hold this state, lots of collapsing here, will find me. We'll find the teachings. We'll find, and we'll be co-creating, and they're part of this, right? Because it's because this is my piece of the puzzle that I'm bringing forward as a program. I don't know how many programmers will wake up, and maybe that's who I'm waking up. I have no story around what this is or isn't. I'm just in service. So just allow this. You can call this source intelligence, or it's the divine aspect, or God consciousness that flows through you, that knows exactly how to support us in this now moment. And we ask that everything unfold with grace and ease, light and love and divine empowerment. May everybody be brought back into their beautiful divine alignment through these transmissions. And when we're ready, may we record them and make them make them available for all those who are ready to receive them, trusting in the divine timing and the divine order of things. I thank you. I'm just rooting my tree down to Gaia. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd like to thank the dragons that are working with us, all of your energy systems, all the elements within us, the consciousness from the inner earth realms, as well as our galactic families and our angelics, consciousness and guides, and all the ascended masters. I thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. When I'm sitting like this, the beginning days, I used to just see myself, at one with the Christed consciousness, and I would say, I have come, I have come, I have come. And I would just see my higher self merging and my light body activating and my field expanding and illuminating. It's that your sphere is beautifully, divinely whole, illuminated, lit up, where your city of lights is glowing as appropriate. Thank you. Thank our teams. Okay. Yeah, okay. We're brought back to middle. Yeah, just sit with that energy and allow it to go, just to play out. We all process so differently. Where this energy goes within you, it's going to be where you most need it in this now moment. And if you revisit any of the transmissions, that's the interesting thing. You could revisit the same transmission over and over, and because your intention is to always ask for whatever's most appropriate, it's never going to be the same. And that's the beautiful thing. So, because we're never in the same vibrational coordinates. So your baseline keeps changing. The more we activate these new pathways in our consciousness, our baseline changes. Okay, we're brought back in. Thank you. Thank you for joining me here and sending you lots of love. I hope you have a beautiful day and magical day. And of course, you're having a magical day. Thank you.